Welcome to my channel. This is Pizzo's Perfection, where perfection is never perfect. And this is an Authortube channel. We discuss writing, reading, lots of books, lots of reading, authors, the author journey, and the writing journey. I just got off work. It's pretty late, but I wanted to make sure I stayed consistent with getting videos out to you. And because I've recently seen a lot of Authortube tag videos, I decided I would make an Authortube tag video as well. Even though no one has tagged me in, I was definitely that little kid that would say, I'm playing. Even though I was a little sister, nobody could tell me I couldn't play. I was going to play whether you tag me in or not. So I'm tagging myself in. Tag, I'm it. And I am going to share my answers to the Authortube questions. I'll try to put them down below. I've seen several, and I'll put some of their names and their channel names down below. I'm sorry, it's late. And even though I just watched one like a second ago, maybe Mindful Firefly. Might be one. I can't remember their names. I'm 40 and refined now, over 40 and refined, and sometimes that memory just fly away. But let's get right to it. I do have a book I want to talk about that I'm reading. My sister and my mom have been watching. Hey, Mom! Love you, sis! And so one of the suggestions was keep recommending books. So I do want to do that, and then I try to stick to 20 minutes. Remember, give me just 20 minutes. Can you not give me 20 minutes? So I want to try to do just 20 minutes of this discussion so that you can go on about your day. Go on about your day, but keep coming back because I don't want to take a whole lot of your time up. So let's get started. How did you find out about Authortube? Like I said, I have been just watching YouTube and enjoying YouTube content for years and years and years and years. And just recently, I started looking at some writing videos, literary agent interviews, and a couple of other interviews from industry professionals that work specifically in publishing, which leads to Big Brother watching and pointing out other videos through your feed to say, hey, you might be interested in this. And I saw a couple of Authortube videos, and I'll put their names down at the bottom. Sheena Wrights may be one of them. And that's how I found out that there was a name for people who actually write. I will tell you, I have tried to go through and look for women of color. Haven't seen a whole lot. Definitely haven't seen a whole lot that are women of color in the 40 and refined stages of life. And so I wanted to definitely join the community officially with this video. So this is an Authortube channel. That's the majority of what you will see. You will see some other content because I got a crazy busy life with a lot of kids, some grown, some teenagers, and they're in sports, and we're always on the road, and I'm a PBS kid for life, and so I work in that arena. And so you'll see a little bit of that, but I'm definitely trying to channel and funnel most of content through the author-writer lens. What genres do you write in? So I'm definitely a kid lit writer. All things children's literature. I write everything from picture book to YA. And so this is what I have completed. I have a middle grade completed all the way through. I have a chapter book completed all the way through. I have a YA book completed all the way through. A short story collection completed all the way through. And I can't even count on how many picture books that I have completed. I just write those just constantly. And so a ton of picture books. I do have a women's fiction humorous book, just about completed, not nowhere nearly where it needs to be. And I do also have a women's fiction, contemporary fiction, that's near completion. It's been on a back burner because I needed to step away from it so I could sort of find its direction. And stepping away has been good for me because I do know where I want to take that story. And so I'll probably get back to it within the year. So I'm a kid lit writer and I write tons of poetry. So that is a little bit different. My poetry is not geared towards children. My poetry usually is somewhat political. I'm usually pondering about something that's happening in the world and trying to reconcile my thoughts and my emotions about what's going on one given topic. And then I will do that through poetry. And so I have a completed collection that I am going to self-publish of poetry. And then I am working on completing a second collection in poetry as well. So that's basically what I write. What is your preferred writing tense and category and point of view? Preferred writing tense, category, and point of view. So my preferred writing tense is typically first person. I do have a novel written in third person, but I really do like first person. That's how the characters come to me in first person, talking directly to me. And so voice is a strength of mine, being able to capture a character's voice. And so typically for me to be able to push out that voice, I write in first person. And point of view, definitely first person point of view is usually what I write in. Are you a pantser, plotter, or plantser? And I'll explain both of those. A pantser is someone I learned in, I love this guy, the Beatniks. If you are an English literature person, you know who they are. The Beatniks sort of wrote in this stream of consciousness. They just wrote whatever came to them and didn't even think about, does it have an arc? What's the characterization? Am I writing too many adverbs? Does this make sense? They just kind of went with the flow. And so that's a pantser. By the seat of your pants, you write. The next one is plotter, which is someone who actually plots out, whether that be through an outline, whether that is someone who is able to make plot points and write those out in advance, or maybe it's someone who plans out using a story map their writing. So pantser, by the seat of their pants. Think of the Beatniks, Jack Kerouac, Amari Baraka, some of my favorite, also known as Leroy Jones, or a plotter, someone who plots out a story, storyboard making, or a mix of that, a hybrid of that maybe you write by the seat of your pants, but you have a general outline. So when I first started writing, which I think is true for a lot of writers, I was definitely a pantser. Just go, go, go. But as I definitely worked hard to learn more about writing and creating stories that are powerful and profound and really develop the messages that I want to develop, in whether it be humor or, friendship or, some of those themes, I have become much more of a plotter in the understanding that I plot out Usually I can see a beginning of a story when a character introduces themselves to me. They typically will introduce themselves through that first scene. And then I can see somewhat the end. And I'm careful about that because I went to a conference once and someone said to me, if you can see the end of your story at the beginning, then most likely your readers can too. So I try to keep that in mind, that the end may be one of those pantsing things and it morphs and changes. But when I sit down to write a manuscript, to start a new novel, I'm typically just pantsing it. I have some plot points from the introduction of that character, and then I just go. And then through my dreams, through showers, through drives, through walks, through eating a muffin, through, crying over some ice cream, the story continues to unfold and unfold and unfold. And I'm able to capture that in my writing. And I can sit down and say, oh, okay, this is what needs to happen to this character right now. And I'll start to write that and it will totally morph and change and transform into something else. So I'm definitely a pantser. Are you self-published, published, or not yet to be published? I am not yet to be published. That is a dream of mine. But honestly, it's the icing on the cake. I keep saying that. I see all of these writers whining and complaining. Whining and complaining. The mama in me coming out. Whining and complaining about this beautiful process to create stories because they aren't published yet, or they don't have the agent yet, or their editor, blah, 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 blah. It's icing. Publishing is icing. Creating stories is the cake. It's just a wonderful thing. It's a wonderful thing to be able to create stories. And I'm sorry if this is careers work, we will produce a YouTube video on the money. It's all about the money because it's not. I know the numbers. So this really is just cake for me. If icing, if I get published, that is my goal and my ambition because I am goal driven, and it's just a way of the world for me is to set goals and try to accomplish them. But the reality is I love to create the stories. I do. So I'm not yet published. The poetry will be self-published. I've kind of hit a roadblock because I'm still looking for an editor for the poetry collection, but that will be self-published. So that's where I'm at with that. Dream Publishing House and Dream Literary Agent. So I'll start with Dream Publishing House. My Dream Publishing House is Scholastic. It's Scholastic. My major dreams are, I want to win a Coretta Scott King Award. I just do. It's stellar. It represents books that reflect my community and my passion to serve my community. And so I definitely want to win a Coretta Scott King Award. I want to be given away at RIF because RIF makes all things in literature equitable. It makes sure that communities across the United States are able to receive high quality books. And so RIF has always, reading is fundamental, has always been near and dear to my heart. And so I definitely want a novel or a book given away during RIF time. That was always a special time for my students. And I believe in equity, and RIF allowed there to be equity. I definitely want to be in libraries because that's whole nother story that I'm going to tell you about. But I want to be definitely shelved in libraries. And then the other thing is Scholastic. As a teacher and as a student, one of the most special moments is getting a Scholastic flyer. I still use them today in the work that I do, touching communities. And going through, seeing what books are out there new, how they package them, how They present them to students, how they make dollar books out of high quality books. I just love, love, love all things Scholastic, and I still love them. They're still a force in the system, and I love them. And so far, no other publishing company has convinced me otherwise. I do love First Books. That's a wonderful resource if you're an educator. They do publishers donate big book box bins to them with one title in them, and they just charge you the shipping to get that title. I love that about First Books, and they do have quality works as well, and they do so much positive in the community. But just when I think about from my childhood to today, Scholastic for me would be a dream. And then literary agent. So I'm going to put this out there, and maybe, just maybe, he'll be watching this. But Arthur A. Levine, he just started his own publishing company, which is amazing. And he's tweeted to me once or twice, but he would be my dream. I saw him speak when I first started this journey over 10 years ago, and he was profound. And I really, really loved him. And his spirit, and I know the quality works that he has championed in the, children's literature arena. And so he definitely is a dream. But let me tell you this. Some things I don't want. I don't want a young buck that don't know people of color who have been making sure our stories have been out there. If you don't know some names like Mildred Taylor, Phyllis Naylor, Phyllis Whitley, don't come a knocking, because you can't market me. You can't sell me. You don't have connects to sell me and to put me out there without it being some flash in the pan thing. I'm talking about, I want someone who is committed to a long-term relationship with me as I develop as an author and as a force to continue to advocate for high quality children's literature that touches children, whether they be in the urban center or a rural area, whether they are children of color, whether they are children that are not of color, that of all of the diversity. But you got to have some history behind your ability to sell a book. And some history reflecting your understanding of quality literature for children of color. Yeah, and it didn't start yesterday or 10 days ago or with We Need Diverse Books. It didn't start there at all. If you don't have that history, I don't know if you have the contacts to sell me. I get to be choosy because this ain't my day job. What Authortube related video can you expect to find on your channel? So I said that kind of at the top of it. You'll see a lot of supports in this journey. I've been on this journey for a very long time in the midst of living my life. Being a mom of 4, being a wife, shaking, moving, broke, now having a little bit of extra money to do conferences. Through my graduate education, as a teacher, as an administrator at the college level, now at a more national branded media company, all of that I'm going to bring to the table to help you learn and grow as well, and to encourage you to continue to write your stories and to continue to submit your stories and put your stories out there. I'm all about everybody winning. Because why not? All right. When did you start writing? So I don't remember a time when I did not write. I think the first time I heard you truly have a gift with this probably was in 4th grade. And telling stories. And I had a turbulent childhood, and maybe one day I'll get into that. Maybe not. It might not be a safe place for me. But with that, stories were always epic for me. And I do have a video coming up about origin stories and what stories truly matter, and truly sent me on my journey. And so I'll definitely put that out. But first and foremost, I don't remember a time when I did not write. Now, I will tell you my very first time I was ever published, besides like the school newspaper and things like that. And so the first time, what I claim as my first time as being published is my grandmother, who lived in our home, passed away. And she was my everything. I loved her dearly. She was the ultimate storyteller, and she definitely influences my ability to tell stories. I used to listen to her and my mom talk in Pig Latin and tell each other stories all night long. And then she also told us stories, and we harassed her to tell us the same stories over and over again. But when she passed away, my heart broke. And I think I was 13 years old, 1987. And I wrote her a poem, and my mother put that poem in the obituary, and it sits on my piano today with a picture of my grandmother. That was the first published piece because all of the family saw it. So that's my first published piece that I really honor and love, and that whole thing. And I was in the school paper editor in 6th grade, and I wrote a lot of pieces in school newspapers and wrote stories. And then even as an adult, I remember going through professional school and writing stories when I should have been studying. Still writing stories about monsters and things like that. So I don't remember a time when I did not write, and I don't remember a time when I did not read. What was the first story you ever wrote? So I told you the first poem that was published just now. The first story, I'm going to slow down just a little bit because I'm going to split this video up because I'm already at 22 minutes. So, okay. The first story that I say I wrote in this journey to be published, and I still have it. I'm going to pull it out one day. I am going to pull it out. But basically it was about a young woman who loved her father dearly, and her best friend was really struggling in her family life, and she found herself having to support this friend through some really difficult times, even though she felt ill-equipped to do it. She just didn't think she knew how to do it. And her father sort of helped guide her toward grace for this friend. So I wrote that story. I will tell you, that was my first novel manuscript that I wrote. And I wrote it I think I wrote that whole entire story by hand, freehand. And what kind of gave me the pause was I needed to transfer it and type it all in. My notes and the whole pantser thing kind of just halted that whole story. But I did write many picture books beforehand. I wrote many picture books beforehand that I just thought, I don't want to be a picture book author. These are just for me or for my kids. And then as I've learned more of the industry, I started saying, no, I could probably publish some of these. Haven't done it yet, but that day will come. The day will come. What was the first? What authors have inspired you most? Your writing most? So the author that has inspired my writing most, the authors. So top of mind, Jacqueline Woodson. She was profound when I became a teacher. I was really looking for books that I could share with my students that were as representative of their African American culture, African American backgrounds, urban experience. And the very first book I read of Jacqueline Woodson's was a picture book, and it was called It Happened This Sunday Past, I believe. I'll put the link in, and I'll probably pop up a picture because I'm going to try to do some graphics with this picture of It Happened This Sunday Past. And I loved it. I could hear all of the voices. I could see myself, my church upbringing in that book. I loved it. And from there, you couldn't tell me nothing. If Jacqueline Woodson had wrote the book, I was getting the book. I was sharing the book. It was posted and put up in my classroom. Showway is another one of her books. And this book is beautiful. It is beautiful. Fine art. Fine art. And that led me to Kadir Nelson, who also just beautiful, beautiful works. But Jacqueline Woodson, and she was the first author that after I read many of her writings, I said, I can do this. I can do this. She's telling many of the stories that I can tell. And she became definitely a reflection for me. So definitely Jacqueline Woodson. The next one was Walter D. Myers. Shout out, rest in heaven, brother. Rumble, young man, rumble. Walter D. Myers, he was prolific for me. I had a 5th grade classroom that had 17 African-American boys or Hispanic boys. Maybe 1 or 2 were Caucasian white boys. And 5th grade classroom, and about 5 girls. And they hated reading. 5th grade, hated it, did not want to read at all. And I was just beginning to say, I want to become a writer. I want to author some books for this age group. And I went to a SCBWI conference, and I met Walter D. Myers, and he kind of mentored me for a little bit. Just mentored me through encouragement that I could do this, that writing our stories was important. And that's a whole nother story about his meeting. But he became the male version of Jacqueline Woodson for me, which was every book he produced, he had out, I bought, I put in my classroom collection. I read with my sons. Love, 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 love him. The other one is Roald Dahl, Chocolate Factory, James and the Giant Peach, The Magic Finger, Matilda. I love, love, love Roald Dahl. Love Roald Dahl. And just his humor, his brevity, he can push it out quick. The imagery, just the wonderment of children. I love that. And that he was different for me because like Jacqueline Woodson and Walter D. Myers definitely reflected our community, and it wasn't always a positive reflection because that's not always what's in our community. But for Roald Dahl, it was just pure fun, and I wanted that for a lot of my students. I recognize we have a lot of trauma, and I wanted to definitely bring about a lot of fun and humor in my writing. And so he is a lesson for me. Every time I read his books, I'm trying to find that place where it's just great humor and imagination building. I just love that about his works. And so Roald Dahl is a major influence of mine. Oh, the crew is in, so I might have to stop this video and pick it up tomorrow.